You're listening to the Building Stronger Agents podcast, where we interview the top solo agents, team leaders, and brokers across the country to see what makes them thrive in today's market and beyond. What's up, guys? Welcome to the latest edition of the Building Stronger Agents podcast. My name's Will Penny, and today we are interviewing Dolly Helbert, who is in the Triangle area of North Carolina. And Dolly's been in the business since 1987, which is a year before I actually became a real estate agent. And she started off as a solo agent. She's now got an amazing team. And Dolly, thanks for being on the show today.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
So before we get started, introduce yourself. Tell us how you got into real estate. Obviously, you were young when you got in, and tell us where you are today.
So let's see. I got in when I had small children because I bought the dream of, oh my, I can do my schedule exactly as I want to, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and I can go to every ball game. I can volunteer in school, and this is going to be really, really easy. And that obviously is not the way that real estate works, but I thought it would be great. So that was why I did it. And it has kind of morphed from there into something that is totally different. And somewhere along the way, it didn't take me long to figure out, wait a minute, I got to work really hard to make this thing work. And it has worked beautifully over the last 35 years.
So let's go back to 1987. How many kids do you have?
I have two.
And how old were they at the time?
Well, I only had at that point, my son was 3 years old.
And you didn't have the other one yet.
My daughter wasn't born until they're 9 years apart. So it took a while for her to show up. But and my husband was an airline pilot, so he was gone the majority of the time. So I was at home raising my son by myself. And that too was an interesting conundrum to be able to manage a real estate career with a very small child. And in those times, things were obviously very different. I mean, gosh, there was no internet. We didn't have fax machines. That really dates me. We had the books, the MLS books that popped up once a week. So it was a whole different mentality of how you did real estate in those days. But it worked, and I was a solo agent for a number of years.
So it's so funny, the MLS book. We used to get ours every 2 weeks.
Oh.
And they'd come out on a Wednesday, and we would have people lined up outside the office, half-hour intervals, because we'd only get 2 books. I was at a big Century 21 office, and we only got 2 books for the whole office. So we had to fill out a schedule on our buyer clients. Well, they weren't even clients back then. Our buyers coming into the office at half-hour intervals, and they'd come in, get to see the book, write down the addresses, because our MLS didn't have any pictures. It was a green screen. So we actually did it that way.
Oh my gosh. Well, now we were much more advanced than you. We all got a book, and it came out on Friday mornings, and they were delivered to the office very early. And we were digging through that book, and then we weren't supposed to, but we would give our old book to the some of our favorite clients.
Oh, that's a violation.
It was a violation. So they'll probably now take my license and right. After all these years.
We could spend hours just on how you presented offers and all of that back then, and just using a map book to drive around. And
oh my gosh, yeah. And the fun part about it is that there were areas that I had no idea. So if I had an out-of-town client and I didn't know where I was going, and they didn't know where they were, and an appointment canceled, I still had to drive past that house because I had line by line directions written out. And if I didn't know where I was going, I couldn't regroup. So because the Triangle is really big, and I wasn't going to tell them I didn't know something. So I just drive past the house, and they just thought it took a long time to get to the next one.
That is hilarious. Yeah, that's what I'd have to do too. And I started in Akron, Ohio, and lived in Kent, which was a half an hour away, a different county. And so I didn't know the area at all. Plus I was 19, and I'd have to just get this map book, copy the pages, get a highlighter, and then do a line. But if I couldn't get out of sorts either, it was impossible. I wouldn't know how to get back.
There you go. And then in planning the tour, I had a huge map of the area, and I had pins, the pens that you use for sewing, but they had the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
colored ends on it.
Yeah.
And so I would stick them on the map on carpet. I had to use carpet in a room that was carpeted to plot the map as to where I was going to go the next day. And
That's hilarious. So
yeah.
when you got in the business, you got a 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
What did you what did you do back then? See, things were different, but they were the same. You still
Mm-hmm.
had to get in front of people and have conversations and convince them to use you to buy or sell a house. So what did you do coming in as a young mom?
My in-laws did not live far from us. They were about 30 miles away. And I had my husband's grandmother at the point who would do some babysitting for me, and
Mm-hmm.
my sister-in-law who would do some babysitting for me. So I just tried to schedule my appointments around where I did not need to bring Bobby with me. As soon as he learned how to talk, he could figure out Fizbo. So when we were riding through neighborhoods, and I remember him seeing a Fizbo boat, and now he is one of my agents. He's on
Yeah, I
my
know
team.
that. That's so great.
But he would point out, he said, "There's one, Mom. There's a Fizbo. We need to call them." And he
Because
was
he'd noticed
probably,
the red and white sign.
yeah, yeah. He knew he was a smart kid. He knew the initials. That's
That
even
is
before he could
funny.
read. Um, so I did manage to find some extra care, and then of course airline pilots at that point in time years ago would fly 3 days a week and would be home 4. So Robbie would pick up and take care of him when he was home. So
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of balanced it that way
How
until
did
he
you
started school.
how did your business take off? Like what did you do right out of the gate? As a new agent then or a new agent now, if you eliminate social media, what do you do to get started?
Well, I made a lot of calls, which I absolutely hate. I chased the FISBOs, I chased the expireds. And then those days we had phone duty, because there was no showing time or whatever you guys use for making appointments. So you had phone duty. And I would take
Overtime.
as much phone duty as I possibly could. And whoever called in, I would try to capture them on the phone and go out and show them a house. And that was the big thing that I spent a lot of time, as much time in the office as I possibly could, taking those up calls and trying to capture that client. And building my sphere of influence that way. Then we would do once I got rolling a little bit, client events, whatever we could do, and lunches out, just trying to get belly to belly in front of people. And that still is today, man. We still have to do that. And I think people forget that. You have got to get in front of people. Social media is great, text is great, email is great, but there is nothing like seeing your people from time to time.
They call them pop buys now.
Yeah, pop buys, or I encourage my team to at least once a week have lunch with somebody,
Right.
or meet them for coffee, or do something where you are, because pop buys during COVID has been hard. You can't
Right,
just drop by.
exactly.
So even
Yeah.
lunch has been hard and coffee has been hard, but
Yeah,
just
yeah,
just
yeah.
get in front of your team. I mean, get in
So
front of your sphere.
what made you decide to start a team and how long ago did that happen?
Well, a lot of things changed in my life as my kids got old. My husband got sick, and that was probably uh 15 16 17 years ago, and he went out on disability, and that changed our financial position greatly. So his pay was cut by 75%, I guess.
So you had to really start hustling.
Yeah, yeah. I was used to a certain lifestyle and I kind of liked it and I didn't want to change.
Right.
So he was home all the time. Our daughter was 11. So it was 18 years ago because she's 29 now. Our daughter was 11. And so it was like, well, okay, well, you're going to be home. So you get to raise a teenage girl, that she is yours, and I'm going to work. And so that's when I decided that it was a good idea to start building the team. And things had progressed enough where, I needed an assistant. And then I needed somebody else to take some of the calls because we had grown enough to where I needed a buyer's agent. And then I really kicked it into high gear and started really, really working to add more buyers agents, and started more of the mentoring, coaching, that kind of stuff with my team to get them to where they needed to be. And as his illness progressed, I stepped further and further back from the day to day going out and meeting clients. However, I was just talking to our mutual coach, and I probably sold 50 so far this year myself.
That's
Uh,
a lot.
it is a lot. It is a lot.
That's hardly stepping back, Dolly.
Well, last year I stepped back further, but with all the change that we did with EXP, I needed to get back involved a little bit more.
Hmm.
And I've had some people that wanted to buy some big properties, and I'm not giving those up. I like those big ones
You're
because,
hungry still.
yeah, I'm still hungry. So,
Hmm.
so that was really the catalyst for making the big change, and it worked. It was good, and I liked that. I liked bringing on the newer agents and working with them.
So what does your team look like now?
Right now, I have four buyers agents, I call them, but they're not really because I let them list as well. So if they get a lead that is a buyer and they have a house to sell, then I will work with them on getting that house listed. If it's just a straight listing lead coming in, I take that. But and so I list a lot of the properties that are coming in. But again, if it's somebody that they establish a relationship with as a buyer, I don't want to get involved in that relationship because I want them to develop their own sphere of
Yeah,
influences.
you want
And
your I know you well enough that you want the people around you. Your focus is them growing themselves and having the best for their family. That seems to be very important to you.
absolutely, absolutely. And they need to be successful in this business. And they need to learn how to do all of it because, if something were to happen to me and, they're just buyer's agents and they're just little mice being fed all the time, that's not going to work for them.
No,
They've got to learn this business. So,
I agree. The one thing the common thread since I started doing this podcast, and I've interviewed some very successful real estate agents all over the country. The the most successful people like you and these others, the reason they do so well, they're not thinking about them and their production and what the team does for them. They're thinking about they're bringing these people into their lives and then they want to give them abundance to grow them, and that creates more productivity, it creates retention, it creates culture. Because if you're building your people to get the most out of their lives and out of their career, then that's going to create value between you and the team members, and they're going to get the best out of their career. And it seems to me like you're not just looking for loyalty. The loyalty comes as a byproduct of you continuing to pour into them. Is that accurate?
I think that's a beautiful way of saying it because, and I've talked to so many agents that they'll start arguing over, but wait a minute, shouldn't I have made da 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 on the commission? On this or that agent was not fair because they're not paying enough commission because commissions have gotten cut a little bit during these really good times. And it's like, stop, quit counting the dollars. If you start looking after your client, doing the very best for your client, the money's going to roll in. And it's the same thing with me. If I sit there and I start looking at, well, what is this agent going to be able to bring to me? Then that's the wrong attitude because as long as you take care of them, teach them, mentor them, then they're going to stay with you and love you and do the very best that they can. But it takes a lot of energy to do that. And so not
Right.
everybody's got that.
Helping your agents figure out their strengths and exploiting those,
Yep.
figuring out their weaknesses and improving those, that so that they can get the most out of, because we all have different personalities. You're obviously a driver type personality and a lot of people aren't, and things work for you that may not work for them. So trying to figure out what works best for the people around you is what I have found creates the most synergy and the most production.
Yeah, that's a good point because the D in me is learned. That's not my natural
Yeah,
state. I don't like
right.
that. I'm more IS, um, but D I have to be because I'm running a business. I don't have a choice.
I'm a high D and high I, but my natural is to be dictator, not driver. So but
I am
I get
not a dictator.
I
That is
gave up
that's for
that
sure.
years ago because you can't if you bring that just poisons relationships. And so I'm constantly having to kick that one in the head and keep it in the corner over here
Love that.
because it
Yeah.
doesn't work. So
No, that
how,
does not work.
so you've got four agents, four productive agents on your
Mhm.
team right now?
I do.
And
And
what is the rest of, do you have admin
I
support?
did. I do. I have a listing coordinator and she does marketing as well. So she takes, and that's the beauty of the team because they really don't have to do a whole lot other than meet with clients, go out and do what they need to do with the clients. So if they bring in a listing, then Roberta takes it from the time that they bring in the paperwork and she does everything to get that listing on the market for them. And then we have a closing coordinator. So as soon as it goes under contract, they bring in the contract, they bring in their client profile sheet. And other than negotiating repairs, whatever it takes for an agent to do that needs to be done legally and to keep us clean with real estate commission, she does everything else. So the clients get to know the whole team. And Vanessa was an agent up in Maryland for years. And when she moved to North Carolina, she did not want to practice real estate, so she's licensed, but she understands the whole workings of the whole transaction. So she's a great closing coordinator. And Roberta's just sweet and she is very, very organized. So when you bring her a listing, man, just get out of her way. Don't mess with her. She's going to get it on the market and she's going to handle the client very nicely. So the agents don't have anything to worry about. They just come in, they go out, they do what they need to with the client, and the rest of the team takes over and handles it for them.
So your current, I know you told me you just for other agents to have some perspective, you guys usually do about 50 million or so a year
Yep.
in sales.
Yep.
What's your average sale price where you are?
I think it's 450 right now.
How's the market doing right now? Are you seeing the changes that
We
everyone else
are.
has?
We are. And the last few weeks have been really crazy. And I'm sure that's across the country with the raise in interest rates. It's going to
Oh
take some
yeah,
time for that to settle down a little bit.
7% right now.
Yeah, and people will understand that that's normal at some point, but
Right.
they're in shock. There are pockets of neighborhoods that are still selling really, really well, but there are others that I don't know. I have a client right now. She's been on the market for 2 weeks, and I think she's gonna have a heart attack any day, just because it's been 2 weeks that her house has been on the market. It's like, oh, please, just wait. We'll get it sold. It's all good, but we're having to go to some other ideas, some other marketing ideas and other things to try to attract the buyers. But yeah, it'll settle down. It'll be fine.
So you and I have a different opinion on things. We share the same opinion, but we have a
Hmm.
different opinion than a lot of agents have been in the business a lot less than us. We're fortunate enough to have sold homes through 6 presidents. And we've had, after 9/11, where we thought relocation was going to end forever.
Hmm.
And when we got in the business, interest rates were like 10, 11.
Yeah, at
Um,
least.
and,
Yeah.
and I didn't even realize when I got in 1988, I didn't realize that we were coming off of almost a depression, very high inflation. I didn't know any of that because I was only 19. So it didn't poison my head. And agents that have been in the business for the last couple of years, or even back to about 2012, all they've experienced is a run up. We've had steady, even in every market across the country has steadily increased or
Yep.
rapidly increased since 2012, right? Last 10
Hmm.
years. And then just off the rails since 2020. So now they're having to do things differently. Now, what are you, as someone who's been in the business for such a long time, 3.5 decades, and then you also have a team of people that you have to keep their heads straight.
Hmm.
What are you doing differently right now with your people? Not so much about getting new business, but what are you telling your agents in terms of communication, and what are you doing to keep their head in the game and to make sure their clients aren't jumping off bridges?
Well, some of the same old stuff, of staying in contact with them. We have a huge client event coming up that's been planned. That was planned before everything started going off the rails a little bit. But we're in a unique area too. So and then we talk about that a lot. Even though it's been a little bit slow here the last, probably 3 to 4 weeks. Where we have Apple coming here, we have Google coming here. Even our marketplace does not suffer like the rest of the country. So it's such a cool place to be that I don't know that we have to have a whole lot to talk about other than do your work, make your calls, go back through your database of people that maybe you haven't touched. The low hanging fruit's gone. You got to climb the tree just a little bit now and go find somebody. So, the coming into this market and thinking that this is going to be easy, come on to the real world, because it's not. We've got stuff we've got to do now. And now let's start working on, okay, you have to call people. You don't just get to do business that handed in front of you. Let's learn real estate. So that's the kind of thing we're working on. It's time to learn real estate and not just think, oh, my ISA called me to, oh, that's the other person on my team is the ISA. My ISA called me today with a new lead, and all I have to do is go meet them and show them 3 houses. And yeah, we're going to have to get into a fight, and we're going to have to talk about the fight to buy that house. But now they have to think about, oh, well, I had John Smith 3 months ago and he didn't want to get into this crazy market. Now's a good time to call him. So we're kind of going back to the basics of how do you sell real estate in a normal market? We're in a
That's all
normal
this
market.
is.
Yeah. So that's the new coaching, and that's the new talking that we're doing with the team, and saying, yeah, it may be a little bit difficult for a little while, but if you hang in there, you'll be fine. I'm sorry, there goes my cat across
You've
the.
got your, is that your ISA?
No, that's not my say.
For those of you listening to this, she's got a big furry cat, looks like a Persian cat or something, walking behind her on a
Yeah, I
counter.
think that's Mia. Mia is a Himalayan.
Look at the size of Mia.
Yeah, she's quite nice.
Oh yeah.
And she
So
has
what?
her brother Max here somewhere. I think
Oh,
there's a.
that's
I've been
hilarious.
hearing a cat fight behind me. I don't think you heard that.
No, no, I didn't hear it. So basically, what you're saying is, and I mean, you and I know this to be true. I don't care about interest rates ever. I'm paying
Mhm.
attention to what's happening,
Sure.
but I keep saying the same thing over and over again. When you're on a plane going 500 miles an hour, you can walk up and down the aisles and nobody even feels it's moving. It's
Yeah.
the excel, it's taking off and landing that you notice.
Hmm.
And as we move into this normal market and interest rates either stay at 7 or they'll probably settle back down again. Now, I don't think we're not going to see 3s and 4s, but all the way through the 2000s, like from 2001 and on, that during that run up, the rates were all in the 5s and 6s then.
Yeah.
That's historically a really good rate. And when you have a desperate shortage of inventory and rates at 3%, it it's like eating cotton candy all day long. It's good for the first one, but it's not sustainable. It
Mm-mm.
creates chaos. It creates a much bigger drop if it goes on for too long.
Yep.
So this is probably a healthy adjustment. Is it happening too abruptly? Probably. But I think that the timing going into the fall, because seasonally, you know, back to school, unless you're in a resort market, but
Yep.
back to school, the time of year, kids' sports, all of that, all those activities. Then you've got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. That has an impact. Even during the biggest, the best market ever, you're going to have times of year where people are on vacation or they're buying back to school clothes or they're start going to football
Yep.
games or whatever that are going to interfere and act as a distraction. And so we've got a double up of that and the high interest rates at the same time.
You're
So
exactly right. And that hurts. That hurts us.
so if you have an agent that comes to you and they're panicking and they're just freaking out because they don't have much in the pipeline and they're worried about these interest rates, what's Dolly telling them?
Stay calm, carry on. We're going to get there. And the unfortunate thing is when they are really, really cash tight, but most of my agents have got enough to carry them for a little while. And we do know that someone is going to be out there to buy the house. And we work very hard on why we're the best one to sell them that house. And our ISA we've hired a new one, and oh my gosh, she is incredible. She is going back and digging through leads, that are a year old, and she's calling people that are, good grief. She calls me about every hour saying, I got a new one. I got a new one. Here's so and so. So, I think there's a lot of people that are out there that don't really understand the market. So we're going back and and explaining and teaching. So again, that's what I'm telling them is, all we can do is the best that we can do. Don't give up. You got to keep working it. And I'm here. I'm going to keep. I talk to each agent for an hour every week to just listen to what they need to tell me, and ask questions. And that doesn't mean I'm not available whenever they need me any other time. But we have a scheduled hour every week just to go through. All right, what's on your mind? What do we need to do? And here's what we're doing as a team to help you. So that's about the best we can do. We can't change the market. We just have to keep their attitude right. And then we also have our team meeting every week about, okay, this is what we're doing. There are rate buy downs, and that's a great catch to get people in the door. It makes absolutely no sense for a buyer to do a buy down, but it at least gets them thinking, oh, wait a minute, I can buy that rate down. That's a great idea, until they start looking at the numbers. But it is a great way to at least lure them in, to at least get the conversation started. So we've got a lot of tools in our toolbox that we're training the agents on when they're having those conversations. But they can't get so depressed that they don't get on the phone. And that's what we're encouraging them to do. Just stay in front of your people. Climb the tree. Can't have the low hanging fruit. Climb the tree.
If you have 10 to 20 if you've got no appointments, I do the same thing, by the way. I have an hour meeting with my 3, and plus our meeting. I think it's very important to do that, and because I don't want a week to go by where I'm not connected with them to see how they're doing and what they're doing and making sure they're staying productive.
Yep.
But you and I both know that if you've got no appointments and you're nervous, and we've all been there, because I never had my wife was the broker at our company, but she sold a lot of homes back in the day. But when we started having kids in the 90s, she stayed home with them. That was a decision we made. So our entire income was me selling houses. And I remember there was some times where I had like 30 days of money left. I'm like, if I don't sell a house now, and then I'd wake up and go, I got to sell 6 houses in the next 30 days. And I don't know where my next one's going to be. And that, and then your head starts turning and turning. And it's usually worse at night. I can usually resolve it during the day.
Yeah.
But at 3:18 in the morning, it's a little, and you're there by yourself. I found that a little harder to manage.
I know that hour well.
Yeah.
For other reasons, but I know that hour
exactly.
well.
And it's never fun. And it's always around 3:18. It has been for me anyway.
Frasier's on, by the way, if you need something to distract you.
Frasier. But anyway, if you just have 10 to 20 phone calls a day, 10 to 20 conversations every day, 5 days a week, and you stay consistent, checking in on people, going through the contacts in your phone, reaching out to old leads, sending Facebook messages to people that your Facebook friends list, whatever it is, 10 to 20 a day, which is 100 a week, 50 to 100 a week. If you do that, within 90 days, your problems are solved. Yeah. Because what's going to happen is those people, and I keep saying this over and over and over again, I sound like a broken record, but those people will then go out, you'll be in their head because they're like, wow, Dolly thought of me. And then someone mentions wanting to move, and you need to call Dolly Helbert.
Yep.
Right. So that's how it works. It seems too simple, but that is really all it is. And then if you want to call a FSBO an expired, which is like a little bit, that's a little bit scarier, but they actually want to sell a house.
Yep.
So if you actually take it one step further, or you do circle prospecting, but if you have 10 to 20 phone calls, conversations a day, there is literally no way that you're not going to sell houses and make more money than you need.
Great advice. That's great advice. And that's going to be passed on to them this week.
So I'd like to talk a bit, because we do have a mutual coach, John Gualtieri, who's an amazing guy. And I think we both feel fortunate to have him. Yes. He's a great, objective, wonderful guy. And I believe in coaching. I've had a coach since 2008. But John's always been talking about you and your ISA. Now you've got a new one. Can you talk to us? Because I don't have an ISA.
Oh,
I've got an agent, Rebecca, who she makes calls all day long, and she's constantly prospecting. But since you've had more than one ISA, what do you look for in a person who's going to be an ISA? How do you keep them in that role? And without talking about specifics, how do you pay them?
that's a really great question because when I started with it, I had one that just kind of fell into it who said I was kind of against it. One of my team agents said, this gal would be great as an ISA. And she had a real estate license, I think up in Michigan, and was doing some kind of jewelry business. And it was, gosh, that was probably 7, 8, maybe even 9 years ago. I said, okay, I'll give her a try. And I paid her very minimally to begin with. And what she did was she fielded every call that came in because we were doing we were buying, we did Zillow, we did Dave Ramsey, any call that came in and all the sign calls were directed to her. Phenomenal. She just was able to connect with people. She would do pre-qualification, and then who we just did a round, just a rotation. We did not try to match them because I did not want her getting into, well, I know that so and so has great experience and they're going to be able to convert this and I'll make more money, because eventually it became to what the price of the house was when it closed. She got a bonus, and so she would make more money. If it was $1 million house, she made a lot of money. If it was $100,000 house, she made a little bit of money. So we just did it. Whoever was next up on the list got that call. And so she would make the call, they would go out, they'd meet the client, and then she stayed on their butt. Every Monday morning, she would say, "Hey, I sent you John Smith last week. How did it go?" And she constantly was getting them to update. So she held them accountable. So she was very unusual. And John Gualtieri said she was one of the very best ISAs in the business.
He told me
Not
that as well.
Yeah, not to have had any experience. She developed the job, she figured it out, and she did it. When things would go south with all of a sudden we weren't getting leads from somebody, she'd figure out why. And she'd call them up and say, what happened? Or if something technical happened, she'd figure out why. So just great. She left the first of the year to go pursue some other things because she worked 7 days a week. She wouldn't take a
That's a
vacation.
tough job.
It is a tough job, and there's no way of really switching it off somewhere else. I figured that piece out in the meantime. And then I hired my next ISA, who was abysmal. He said he felt tied to the phone. He wouldn't make calls. And she also followed up on all the old leads. She had days specific. I'm going to call all my Dave Ramsey leads on this day. I'm going to call all of my Zillow leads on this day. And so, she had her whole schedule figured out. So the next one was like, well, if the phone rings, I'm going to answer. And if it's a call, I might be able to get him. And I listened to some, and he was abysmal. Nice guy, loved him. We parted on really good terms. But after about 6 months, it was like, we got to do something different.
It's not right for the job.
Not right for the job. He was not in the right seat on the bus. So I have just hired one. She's been on with me for probably 6 weeks, and she was a Mark Spain ISA.
What does that mean?
He's a company, Mark. Yeah, you're not in our marketplace. Mark Spain is out of Atlanta, and he will be in your market soon, I'm sure. And is building a huge real estate company, where they go in, they buy houses, and it's kind of like Open Door almost,
Mm.
but they get their agents in. Excuse me. They get their agents in and then try to list the house. But he has hit the triangle very, very hard. But he must have 30 ISAs, and all they do is answer the phone. He advertises all the time. He's on TV all the time, on the radio all the time, just everywhere, just really hitting it hard. So all she did, she would answer the phone for 40 hours a week. And then she'd have another 10 hours she could spend, and she was just salaried, that she could go back and dig out old leads. Um, and so her training was different. So we're having to do some retraining. But man, that girl she is so happy. And when you talk to her, you can tell she is just smiling and just thrilled. So our ISA job's a little bit different, but she's doing great. So we've got the right person in the right seat. Payment depends on whether they're licensed or not as to how we can pay.
They
License,
almost have to be licensed.
Well, she is not, and I've told her she needs to
Okay.
get her license because they can only give so much information.
Right.
So all she's doing right now is setting appointments. So that's
Got it.
all she can do. So if someone calls and wants information on her house, she can't do much with that.
Right.
And then we tend to lose them trying to get them over to the agent. So
Right.
that's a little bit wonky, but she's still doing a great job.
Yeah.
I've got, I think, 3 appointments right now lined up for listings that she has set for me.
Nice.
But the way I have paid is with my last one was a very small base salary, and then she was paid per closing. And so as the agents got them under contract closed, then she got a really nice bonus per closing. And that way you have to be licensed real estate commission because it's basically commission.
Right.
With this one, she is just being paid a salary. And I've told her, I said, you're going to make a lot more money if you
Get your
can do
license.
it, you get your license. So she's working on being licensed.
Oh, good.
So that works better to do it that way. And then my agents participate in the payment based on what their split is. So if they're on a 50-50 split, they pay half of her fee and I pay half of her fee.
That's fair.
Yep, it is.
Because they want to keep her. You can't starve your help.
No. Mm-mm. And again, when you're selling $1 million house, her fee could be up to $2,000, a bonus.
Yeah.
So my first one was, she was making somewhere around, 80 to 90,000 a year, which was pretty nice money.
Yeah, I would say unless you're in San Diego or somewhere, that is decent money.
Yeah, yeah. Again, not to have to get out and be in sales and for an admin position basically. So wasn't bad.
No, that's great. Having an ISA, I looked in Follow Up Boss the other day, and I think we've got like 13,000 people in there. And it's so funny when agents talk about new leads, new leads, new leads. All a lead is a human being.
Yeah.
And depending on whether they want to talk to you or they don't want to talk to you, determines on whether they're good or garbage. And then if they want to talk to you, then it depends on their financial ability, which determines good or garbage. But at the end of the day, they're just humans. So if you call your 13,000 people, you should never have to buy a lead again.
No, you should not. You should not. And that's where I go back to the low hanging fruit. We did a lot with Zillow for a very long time.
So did we. That's how we got the 13,000 in there.
Yeah, us too. I don't know. We got 13,000, but we're not far off.
Google paid ads.
Yeah, we got that. We're doing that as well through a marketing company, and so they're just piling up. And the Google paid ads, they take a long time to nurture, and someone needs to nurture those. And our agents aren't going to do it. That again, they're going to go out. They're going to take the fastest way to get from point A, to get a paycheck. So they're not going to call those people. You look at that list and say, I won't call them. They're not any good. I'm not gonna mess with that. I want this one who wants to buy a house tomorrow. So
right, it's the agent who just likes fast food.
Yep. So that's a lot of them.
We're gonna
see probably a third of our agents, I bet you, fall out in the next few years just because the market is changing.
I think it'll be more than that.
You do? Okay.
Well, we lost during the housing from 2008 to 2009. We lost half our realtors in Northeast Ohio.
Well, we may lose half of them here, and some of them I won't be sorry to see go.
No, but again, it's not. I mean, the economy's good. They'll get another job. Like I said, I've said this over and over again. I mean, the ones that usually the part-timers don't fall out. The ones that sell a few homes a year don't fall out. The people like you and me or someone making a really good living, they don't fall out. Because they can't you can't go become a surgeon.
No. And I hate to say it, but I know what some of the surgeons make, and I don't think.
No, right. But my point is, the agents that are making 50 to 80 or 90,000 a year, where they end up, and they're selling 4 million or 5 million a year in sales, and they don't have systems in place, and they see their income go from 80 to 55, and they were depending on the 80, then getting another job just makes more sense for them. And those are typically the ones, the middle of the pack are the ones that usually fall out full time, depending on the income. and they're the ones that it hits the most. So when you see the number of transactions drop 10 or 20%, it usually is hitting them a lot more, and they leave the game. So then the agents that stay relevant and are working hard and having conversations, there's a lot more business to go around for them. So it actually becomes, it's kind of ironic for the ones that hang out in those tough markets. They end up making a lot more money because there's fewer agents to split the deals up with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think that will be a good thing.
I am too. And we just have to keep staying relevant and we're having a client event next week. We're having, it's called Portraits at the Park. And we hired a photographer, a really good one. He does all the real producers photography. You have real producers there?
We do.
So we've got him coming, and we're paying, and we've got clients coming and doing family photos for him at a park.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then we're going to have a face painter and food, and it's going to cost me probably a couple $1,000, but we're going to have a bunch of clients show up, and it's going to be a great time. We do that twice a year. Not the portraits one. This is our first one with the portraits, but last year we gave out pies around Thanksgiving. We had our moving truck, and people just showed up and grabbed their pie. We did that during COVID and last year. And then we have one at a brewery, and then we just have like 100 people show up.
Yeah, we've done the brewery. We're doing Everyone Needs a Home, and it's an animal rescue as well as Everyone Needs a Home. So we're partnering with a vet, and we have 4 rescue groups coming at different times, and we have a kids bounce house that looks like a Dalmatian house, and we have a photographer so people can come get their, the families can do their portraits, and we have contests. Do you look the most like your pet? Dog trick contest, and let's see, there's one other one.
That's hilarious. That sounds like a great idea.
And then we've got a food truck, and those that sign up get free lunch on us, so that we can kind of get an idea. And then we've got a microbrewery coming as well. So we're trying to get a head count is why we're doing it that way. And then cornhole and some of those kind of things. So hopefully it'll be a success.
How do you get a bunch of people there? Do you promote it in your Facebook group?
It's in the Facebook group. We're sending out postcards to some of our farm neighborhoods. The vet office has got postcards. Right now, we don't have a ton signed up for it. And then tomorrow is my day to start calling my sphere of influence. Yeah. So we're going to actually make calls to people and say, come on, because a lot of people have opened, it's on our webpage. A lot of people have opened the link, but haven't signed up. So, and that was the whole idea, is sign up, you get free lunch. Come on, because I know we'll get people just from the community in general to come, because it'll be a cool event. We have a dog trainer coming. Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah.
Any last things you want to add for people?
No, this has been fun.
You've given us a ton of information. It's so boring though, because it all comes back to the same thing. Talk to more people, be consistent about it, be nice, be knowledgeable, answer your phone. Yeah. And have as many conversations with people who may want to buy or sell a house a day, and then stay in touch with your sphere and just check in on them.
Or have a great event and adopt dogs. Now that's a new one.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
And I like the portraits one too, because everyone was excited to get a family photo.
Yeah,
there's lots of creative ways to get people to come to see you.
Well, and that's just it. Give them something. And we got a lender that's helping fund this, so it won't be overly expensive. So
well, listen, it's been great. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us and talk to me.
I am happy to do it.
It's all about giving back. And those who are listening to this, I hope you listen to this a couple times, because Dolly gave us some great information. So Dolly, you have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. And I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Will. I'll see you soon.
Okay. See you. Bye. Thanks, guys, for listening. Please continue to listen to our Building Stronger Agents podcast. We'll continue to interview top agents around the country. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Building Stronger Agents podcast. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends.